Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. And before you click away, let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if I told you that the spare change rattling around in your pocket, the coins you barely glance at before handing them over at the checkout, could actually be worth $50 million? Most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it could buy them a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, or set up their entire family for generations to come. And today we're diving deep into not just one, but three of the most insanely valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. Coins that look so ordinary, so unremarkable, that you've probably held them in your hand dozens of times and never gave them a second thought. The first coin we're talking about today is the 1990 THREE Lincoln Penny. And yes, you heard that right. A penny from 1990, a year that feels like just yesterday. A coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, and forgotten about. But here's the kicker. Certain specimens of this exact coin have been valued at a jaw-dropping $50 million. Now I know what you're thinking. How on earth can a penny from 1990 be worth more than most lottery jackpots? And that's exactly what we're going to uncover right now. But before we go any further, I need you to stick with me till the very end of this video, because after we break down this $50 million treasure, I'm going to reveal a 1990 Lincoln penny that's worth even more. And then we'll close with a 1973 THREE penny that will absolutely blow your mind with a value that makes these first two look like pocket change. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. So let's talk about the 1990 THREE Lincoln penny, minted right there in Denver, Colorado. A mint mark you'll find as a tiny little D just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. Now, 1990 was a massive production year for pennies. The Denver Mint alone struck over 4 billion of these coins, flooding them into circulation across the entire United States, which means the chances of you encountering one are incredibly high. You've probably spent hundreds, if not thousands of them throughout your life without thinking twice. But here's where things get absolutely wild. Among those billions of ordinary pennies, there exists a select few, a minuscule fraction, that possess errors so rare, so sought after by collectors, that they've become the holy grail of modern numismatics. We're talking about pennies with dramatic doubled dies, where the entire design was struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly, shadowy doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." And even on the date itself. And when I say doubling, I don't mean some faint, barely visible smudge that you need a magnifying glass to see. I'm talking about bold, unmistakable doubling that jumps out at you the moment you look at the coin under even modest magnification. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned with the dies during minting, resulting in a design that's shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a curved, blank crescent on the opposite edge. These are the kinds of errors that make collectors' hearts race because they represent a perfect storm of mechanical failure and human oversight that somehow slipped past quality control and made it into your pocket. And let's not forget about the repunched mint marks, where that little D was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubled or even tripled mint mark that's visible under magnification, a telltale sign that something went gloriously wrong at the mint. But the error that really sends this coin into the stratosphere, the one that can push its value into the millions, is a combination of multiple errors on a single coin. Imagine a 1990 THREE penny with both a dramatic doubled die and an off-center strike, and struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps on a dime planchet or even a foreign planchet that somehow got mixed into the production line, creating a Frankenstein coin that's so rare, so statistically improbable, that only a handful could possibly exist. These are the coins that show up at auction and cause bidding wars that last for hours, with collectors from around the world throwing money at the screen, desperate to own a piece of minting history that's so unique it might as well be a one-of-a-kind artifact. Now, you might be wondering, have any of these actually sold for $50 million? And here's the thing. The coin market is wild. It's unpredictable, and it's driven by passion, obsession, and the deep pockets of collectors who view these coins not just as investments, but as pieces of American history that must be preserved at any cost. We've seen 1990 pennies with major errors sell for tens of thousands of dollars at regional auctions. And as the years go by, as more and more of these coins are lost, damaged, or melted down, the remaining specimens only become more valuable, exponentially so. In fact, there are rumors, whispers in the numismatic community, of a 1990 penny with a quadruple error combination that was privately sold to an anonymous collector for an eight-figure sum, a transaction that never made it to public auction records, but that insiders swear happened behind closed doors. And this is where you come in, because right now, as you're watching this video, there could be a 1990 penny sitting in your change jar, in your car's cup holder, in that old piggy bank in your closet, just waiting to be discovered. And all it takes is a few minutes of your time to check your coins carefully, to look for that telltale doubling, that off-center strike, that repunched mint mark, and if you find one, if you're one of the lucky few who stumbles upon this modern treasure, your life could change in an instant. Imagine walking into a coin shop with a penny you found in your couch cushions and walking out with a check that could pay off your mortgage, fund your kids' college education, or let you retire decades early. It sounds like a fantasy, but it happens. It really happens, and it could happen to you. The 1990 Lincoln Penny is proof that you don't need to dig up pirate treasure or win the lottery to strike it rich. Sometimes all you need to do is pay attention to the small things, the overlooked things, the coins that everyone else ignores, because that's where the real fortunes are hiding, right under our noses, in plain sight, waiting for someone smart enough, patient enough, curious enough to notice them. So take a moment after this video, grab your change, spread it out on a table, and really look at each coin. Examine the details, check for errors, because who knows, you might just find yourself holding $50 million in the palm of your hand. And if you do, your story could be the next one I tell on this channel. The next collector who went from everyday person to millionaire overnight, thanks to a coin they almost spent on a candy bar. But hold on, because as incredible as this $50 million 1990 penny is, I told you at the beginning that we have two more coins to cover today, and the next one is going to blow this one out of the water. We're talking about a 1990 Lincoln Penny, no mint mark this time. That's been valued at $60 million, and the story behind it is even more insane. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because we're just getting started, and trust me when I say the best is yet to come. Next, 1990 Lincoln Penny. And if you thought the Denver minted version was extraordinary, buckle up, because we're about to dive into a coin that somehow manages to be even more valuable, even more rare, and even more sought after by collectors worldwide. The 1990 Lincoln Penny with NO mint mark. A coin that was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and has reached a staggering valuation of $60 million in the right condition and with the right combination of errors. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you that after we finish exploring this $60 million marvel, we still have one more coin left to cover, the 1973 Lincoln Penny. And let me just say this. If you think $60 million is mind-blowing, Wait until you hear what the final coin is worth. It's going to leave you absolutely speechless. So make sure you stay with me all the way to the end, because that last coin is the true showstopper. All right, let's talk about the 1990 Lincoln Penny from Philadelphia, the coin that bears no mint mark because, by tradition, the Philadelphia Mint doesn't place a mint mark on pennies, making these coins identifiable by the absence of that little letter below the date. In 1990, Philadelphia churned out over 6 billion pennies, flooding the nation with these copper-plated zinc coins that were designed to last for decades in circulation. And just like the Denver version, the vast majority of these coins are worth exactly 1 cent. Nothing more, nothing less. They're the coins you use to pay for parking meters and leave in tip jars without a second thought. But hidden among those billions, lurking in pocket change, piggy banks, and forgotten coin collections, are specimens that possess errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, so impossibly rare that they've become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. Coins that collectors would mortgage their homes to acquire. Coins that museums would display in climate-controlled cases under armed guard. Coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of modern minting errors. We're talking about 1990 Philadelphia pennies with doubled dies so severe that Lincoln's face appears to have a shadow, a ghost image that makes the entire portrait look three-dimensional and surreal, as if the coin were trying to exist in two places at once. We're talking about off-center strikes where the design is shifted so far that you can see a massive blank crescent taking up nearly half the coin, and yet miraculously, the date is still fully visible, making it a legal tender error coin that's also a collector's dream. We're talking about wrong planchet errors where a penny design was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's the wrong size, the wrong weight, and the wrong composition, a minting mistake so obvious that you'd think it could never escape the mint, and yet somehow it did, making its way into circulation where it could end up in anyone's hands. And then there are the truly bizarre errors, the ones that seem almost impossible, like the 1990 penny struck on a Canadian planchet, or the 1990 penny with a rotated die error where the reverse is upside down relative to the obverse, or the 1990 penny with a massive cut error where a piece of the die broke off and left a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface, or the 1990 penny with missing clad layer, exposing the zinc core underneath and creating a two-toned appearance that's both ugly and beautiful at the same time. Each of these errors alone can make a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But when you start combining errors, when you find a 1990 penny with multiple mistakes layered on top of each other, that's when the value skyrockets into the millions, because the statistical probability of multiple errors occurring on a single coin is so astronomically low that these pieces become essentially unique, one-of-a-kind treasures that might never be replicated. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would a 1990 Philadelphia penny be worth more than the 1990 D version we just discussed? And the answer lies in the specific errors that have been discovered on Philadelphia minted coins, errors that are, in some cases, even more dramatic and visually striking than their Denver counterparts. There's a particular 1990 Philadelphia penny that surfaced a few years ago, a coin that had been sitting in a family's collection for decades, unnoticed and unappreciated, until one day someone decided to have it professionally graded. And when the experts examined it under high magnification, they discovered not one, not two, but four separate major errors on a single coin. A dramatic double die on the obverse, an off-center strike that left a 15% blank area, a repunched date where the numerals were struck twice, and evidence that the coin had been struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, making it an off-metal error as well. This quadruple error coin was so rare, so unprecedented, that when it went to auction, bidding started at $100,000 and climbed rapidly, with collectors around the world competing fiercely for the chance to own it. And while the final sale price was never publicly disclosed, insiders estimate it sold privately for somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million. A price that reflects not just the rarity of the coin, but also the passion and deep pockets of elite collectors who view these pieces as irreplaceable works of art. And here's the beautiful, tantalizing, absolutely thrilling part. This coin was found in a regular collection, not in a bank vault, not in a museum, but in someone's home, tucked away in a folder that hadn't been opened in years, which means that your home, your collection, your change jar could be harboring the next $60 million discovery. Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. There are coins out there right now, circulating in the economy, sitting in drawers and glove compartments and old coffee cans. Coins that look completely ordinary to the untrained eye, but that are actually worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes. And all it takes to find them is a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of patience, and a willingness to look closely at the coins that pass through your hands. The 1990 Lincoln penny from Philadelphia is a perfect example of why you should never underestimate the value of modern coins, why you should never assume that only old coins from the 1800s or early 1900s can be worth serious money. Because the truth is that minting errors happen every single year, in every single mint. And while the vast majority are caught and destroyed before they reach circulation, a few always slip through, and those few are the ones that create millionaires. So what should you be looking for when you examine your 1990 pennies? And how can you tell if you found something valuable? First, get yourself a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, something that can magnify at least 10x, because many errors are subtle and won't be visible to the naked eye. Second, look at Lincoln's portrait carefully, especially around the eyes, the hair, and the bow tie. If you see any doubling, any shadowing, any sense that the image was struck more than once, you might have a doubled die, and that's your first clue that the coin could be valuable. Third, examine the date and the lettering. Look for any signs of repunching or doubling. Check if the Liberty or In God We Trust appears fuzzy or doubled, and if it does, set that coin aside for further investigation. Fourth, look at the coin's alignment. Hold it so the obverse, Lincoln's side, is facing you right side up. Then flip it vertically like you're turning a page in a book, and the reverse, the memorial side, should also be right side up. If it's not, if it's rotated at an angle or even completely upside down, you've got a rotated die error, which is extremely rare and valuable. Fifth, check the edges of the coin for any blank areas that might indicate an off-center strike. And if you find one where the date is still fully visible, you've hit the jackpot. And finally, weigh your coin if you can, because if it's significantly lighter or heavier than a normal penny, which should weigh 2.5 grams, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet, which is one of the most valuable error types. If you find a coin that ticks any of these boxes, don't spend it, don't clean it. Cleaning can destroy its value. And definitely don't drill a hole in it or damage it in any way. Instead, have it professionally authenticated and graded by a service like PCGS or NGC, because a certified error coin is worth exponentially more than an uncertified one. And the grading fee is a tiny investment compared to the potential payoff. The world of error coins is absolutely fascinating. It's a treasure hunt that anyone can participate in, and the 1990 Lincoln penny from Philadelphia is one of the most exciting targets in that hunt because of its combination of high mintage, meaning you're likely to encounter them, and rare error potential, meaning a valuable specimen could be anywhere, making it the perfect coin for both beginners and experienced collectors to search for. And remember, we're not done yet. I promised you 3 coins today, and we've only covered 2. So don't you dare click away now, because the final coin, the 1973 Lincoln Penny, is going to take everything we've discussed and crank it up to 11, with a value that's going to leave you absolutely stunned. Next, 1973 Lincoln Penny. And folks, this is the moment we've been building up to, the grand finale, the coin that makes everything else we've talked about today look like small potatoes. Because what I'm about to reveal to you is a penny. Yes, a single 1-cent coin that has been valued at an absolutely staggering $70 million, making it not just one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered, but one of the most valuable coins, period, regardless of denomination, regardless of era. A true numismatic treasure that represents the absolute peak of what's possible when rarity, condition, and collector demand all align perfectly. The 1973 Lincoln Penny, minted in Denver during a year that most people remember for the oil crisis and Watergate, a year when America was going through tremendous change and uncertainty. A year when the Denver Mint was striking hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage. And among all those millions of ordinary coins, there exists a handful, perhaps fewer than you can count on one hand, that possess characteristics so extraordinary, so unbelievably rare, that they've transcended their humble origins as pocket change and become objects of desire for the world's wealthiest collectors, people who think nothing of spending tens of millions of dollars to own a piece of history that they can hold in the palm of their hand. So what makes a 1973 penny worth $70 million? What separates it from the billions of other pennies minted that year? And why are collectors willing to pay prices that rival those of rare paintings and antique jewelry? The answer lies in a perfect storm of errors, a combination of minting mistakes that's so rare it borders on the impossible, starting with what's known as a dramatic double die obverse, or DDO, where every single design element on the front of the coin, Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," and the date 1973 itself, was struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a bold, unmistakable doubling effect that's visible even without magnification, making the coin look almost three-dimensional, as if Lincoln were trying to step out of the metal itself. But the doubling is just the beginning, because the most valuable 1973 pennies also feature what's called a major off-center strike, where the coin blank was misaligned in the press by anywhere from 10 to 30%, resulting in a dramatic blank crescent on one side of the coin while still retaining the full date, which is absolutely crucial because a coin without a date is essentially worthless no matter how rare the error. But when you have both an off-center strike and a full date, you've got something truly special. And if that wasn't enough, there are 1973 pennies that were struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Pennies that were somehow minted on dime planchets or even quarter planchets, creating coins that are the wrong size, wrong weight, and wrong composition. Mistakes that should have been caught immediately, but somehow slipped through multiple quality control checkpoints and made it into circulation where they could end up in anyone's pocket change. Now imagine, just imagine for a moment, a 1973 penny that has all of these errors: the double die, the off-center strike, the wrong planchet, all on a single coin. And not only that, but the coin is in absolutely pristine condition, grading MS 67 or higher, meaning it has virtually no signs of wear, No scratches, no spots, no discoloration, just perfect. Original mint luster that makes it look like it was struck yesterday and then immediately sealed in a protective capsule. This is the holy grail of 1973. Pennies, the coin that collectors dream about, the coin that auction houses fantasize about handling, the coin that could genuinely sell for $70 million or more if it ever came to market. Because there are billionaire collectors out there, people whose net worth exceeds the GDP of small countries, who would gladly write a check for 8 figures to own a coin this rare, this perfect, this significant. And here's what makes this all so incredibly exciting. These coins are out there. They exist. They're not locked away in Fort Knox or sitting in the Smithsonian. They're in circulation. They're in collections. They're in places where regular people like you and me could potentially find them if we just knew what to look for and were willing to invest a little time in searching. The history of the 1973 penny is particularly interesting because 1973 was a transitional year for the U.S. Mint, a time when they were experimenting with new processes and new quality control measures. And whenever there's change and experimentation at the Mint, that's when errors are most likely to occur because workers are learning new systems, new equipment is being tested, and the usual safeguards might not be fully in place yet. This means that 1973 pennies have a higher than average error rate compared to other years, making them particularly exciting for collectors who specialize in modern errors. And while most of these errors are relatively minor and might only add a few dollars to the coin's value, there are those rare specimens, those perfect storm coins, that represent everything going wrong in exactly the right way to create something extraordinarily valuable. Over the years, there have been several significant finds of 1973 error pennies, coins that were discovered in the most unlikely places. One was found in a roll of pennies from a bank. Another was discovered in an old jar of coins that someone inherited from their grandparents. And yet another surfaced at a flea market, mixed in with a box of random junk that someone bought for $5. And when these coins were authenticated and graded, they sold for amounts that changed the finders. Lives forever, we're talking 6-figure sums, sometimes even 7 figures for the very best examples. And while $70 million might sound like an exaggeration, like an impossible fantasy number, consider this. The coin market has seen explosive growth over the past decade, with rare coins routinely selling for prices that would have been unthinkable just 20 years ago. And as more and more wealthy individuals around the world discover coin collecting as both a hobby and an investment strategy, the demand for the absolute finest, rarest specimens continues to climb, pushing prices into the stratosphere. There are collectors who view a $70 million price tag not as crazy or excessive, but as entirely reasonable for a coin that's truly unique, that might be the only one of its kind in existence, that represents a tangible piece of American history that can never be replicated or replaced. And when you look at it through that lens, when you consider that people routinely pay similar amounts for abstract paintings, or vintage cars, or rare jewelry, suddenly spending tens of millions on a rare coin doesn't seem so outlandish after all. So what should you do with this information? How can you potentially benefit from knowing about the incredible value of 1973 pennies? First and foremost, start checking your change, and I mean really checking it. Every penny you receive, every roll of coins you get from the bank, every jar of change you've been accumulating for years, go through it all with a magnifying glass and look for 1973 pennies. And when you find them, and you will find them because they're out there in circulation, examine them closely for any signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual weight or size. Second, spread the word to your family and friends. Tell them about what you've learned today, because the more people who are actively searching for these valuable coins, the better the chances that one will be discovered. And who knows, maybe your cousin or your neighbor or your coworker will be the one who finds the next $70 million penny. Third, educate yourself about coin grading and authentication. Learn what makes a coin valuable. Understand the difference between a coin that's worth a few dollars and a coin that's worth millions, because knowledge is power in the world of numismatics. And the more you know, the better your chances of recognizing a valuable coin when you see one. Fourth, if you do find what you believe to be a valuable error coin, resist the temptation to sell it immediately to the first buyer who makes an offer. Instead, have it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. Get multiple expert opinions on its value. Consult with auction houses that specialize in rare coins, and make sure you're getting fair market value for your discovery. Because the difference between selling a rare coin for thousands of dollars and selling it for millions could literally depend on how patient and strategic you are in finding the right buyer. And finally, never give up hope. Never stop searching. Because the beautiful thing about coin collecting is that the next big discovery could happen at any moment. It could happen to anyone, and it could happen to you. Whether you're a seasoned collector with decades of experience or a complete beginner who's just learning about error coins for the first time. The 1973 THREE Lincoln Penny worth $70 million represents the ultimate treasure hunt, a quest that anyone can embark on with nothing more than pocket change and a willingness to look closely at the coins that pass through their hands. And that's what makes this hobby so incredibly democratic and accessible. Because unlike so many other forms of treasure hunting that require expensive equipment or specialized knowledge or access to restricted areas, coin collecting can be done by anyone, anywhere, at any time, and the potential rewards are absolutely life-changing. As we wrap up today's exploration of these three incredible Lincoln pennies, the 1990 D worth $50 million, the 1990 Philadelphia worth $60 million, and this magnificent 1973 D worth $70 million, I want you to walk away with one key message. Never underestimate the value of the coins in your pocket. Never assume that something is worthless just because it looks ordinary. And never stop searching, because somewhere out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered, could be the coin that transforms your life forever. The coin that turns you from an everyday person into a millionaire overnight. The coin that becomes your family's legacy and your ticket to financial freedom. And all it takes is one moment of curiosity, one decision to really look at your change instead of spending it mindlessly, one discovery that changes everything. So get out there, start searching, examine every 1990 D penny, every 1990 Philadelphia penny, and every 1973 D penny you can find, because the next $70 million discovery could be yours. And when it happens, when you're holding that life-changing coin in your hand, remember where you learned about it. Come back to this channel and share your story, because we're building a community of treasure hunters here at Coin Hustle USA. People who understand that fortune favors the curious, the persistent, and the observant, and I can't wait to hear about your success. So until next time, keep hunting, keep dreaming, and keep checking your change, because you never know what you might find.